Okay, so welcome to a long overdue update. I've been just taking a break after after that fail. So that was last year already. I think it was. I forget exactly when it was, but I wanted to do another update because it turns out that I kind of thought that the exam was a little bit like I was constantly running out of time when I was doing it. And of course I'll remind I'll always be very clear that I'm under a confidentiality agreement. I can't say how much time there was on the exam, how many sections there were, anything like that. But I like but I mean, of course, I can say that you need to finish the exam in the allotted time, and if you don't do that, you're not going to do all that well on it. And that's one of the things I had a problem with. And I wanted to make this update because there was good news, and that is that the exam is still kind of being designed, and I actually got a 50% discount on a retake because they're going to put out a new version of the exam. I don't know if it's going to be 962 now or what, but it's going to allow the test takers a slower pace. And they actually went back through my results to see if I could have been earned more points because of the unrealistic expectations for me to finish it within a certain time. And unfortunately, I did not get a update to my score. It wasn't an issue of running out of time for me. It was just an issue of not being solid enough on some of the material. So that's what I wanted to say, is that I've now got a definitive retake date because I've got to use the coupon I was given by I think it was the end of June. I actually wrote that down. So let me check I put it on like at my Google Calendar. So let me make sure I've got that date right, because that's going to be important to know. I've got to schedule my retake for before that. And as I said before, unfortunately, the study I plan to do for the retake is not going to be a part of this channel. It's going to be off camera, just because I want to be extra sure that I'm not accidentally violating the confidentiality agreement. But I do have some updates to make. I did do some work so far, mostly just preparatory work. I didn't actually do a lot of studying yet. I haven't kind of hit the grindstone again. I do want to find that date when the retake is due. Okay, so unfortunately, it looks like I can't find that date. I thought it was. Oh, I see. Okay, so that's actually good news. It's the end of July. It's the last day of July. I actually thought it was a little bit earlier than that, so that's really good news. But that's 5 months from now. That's coming up faster than I might expect. Even more good news, aside from having a discount on a retake, is the work I put into my lab. So as I mentioned, if anyone's been following this, I purchased a Dell PowerEdge from SaveMyServer.com. This is where I did all of my studying from. Let me shrink down myself so that my screen can be seen. Okay, and then I've probably got to put this, I've got to put this on my second screen. Okay, so this is the website I used to get my home lab. I used a Dell PowerEdge R610. And part of the reason I made this choice, so this is what I got. but there's different kinds. Even out here, here's an R620. The R610s are pretty old. Here's an M610. So basically, you name it, you can get it from here. There's R720s. Now, if you buy a Dell PowerEdge, that is the latest and greatest and not refurbished. Like if you buy it from Dell, that's going to cost you a lot. But oh, actually, you know what? It looks like this doesn't even cost that much. Yeah, I guess they're a T now. They're not R anymore. So, but this I don't think is enough. Just having one, just having a single socket for one processor, and then it looks like there's not a lot of space in this for memory. But I have found that the limiting factor for VMXs in GNS3 is more for me has been more processor than memory, but that could just be because I have a lot of memory, way more than I have processor. So here's what I went with. I got the upgraded motherboard so that I could have hex cores instead of quad cores, and then I got the I think the cheapest hex core option. So I got I think I got this, and then I got 96 here, and I left that blank. I got the what did I even get, the 900, yeah, so the $70 one there. If I could go back and purchase it again, I think I would upgrade this. So this was only $20. I think I'd definitely get the 40 at least. Now there's a difference between an L and an E that could be really important when it comes to virtualization. Virtualization actually depends on the processor type quite a bit. So it worked for me, but I would, and I did at the time, do research about what each of these means and if they are suitable for virtualization, because if they're not, then that's a problem. But if I could go back, I'd probably take this one here, the $45 X56 one. Yeah, that's probably the one I would do now. And the other thing I would do is add more space. I found running out of space just really is not fun. So I'd probably, let's see here. So this is okay, so this is just, okay, so a SAS versus SATA. So I only paid, yeah, $70 for mine. Maybe this wasn't available at the time because it looks like this is cheaper with more space. So I'm surprised I didn't go with this. But this is probably what I would go with now. And it looks like for, actually it looks like I would go with this one because it looks like the exact same one, but just $10 cheaper. So I'd probably go with 2 of these. So for $100 I'd get 2 terabytes, which is a good deal when you look at what 2 terabytes would cost otherwise. And I think 2 terabytes is more than enough space. So I would go with this in each bay if I could go back and after my own experience learning what I have learned, these are the changes I would make. The other thing I would do definitely is get and I actually went back and did this, is I would get I don't even know where you can get this, but I actually went back and just I I purchased a just a tray, an empty tray. Yeah, so like here, like here, yeah, I would probably actually just do this. Maybe like fill it up with these $15 drives that are only like 146, because that's not going to cost you that much. I probably wouldn't fill it all the way out. I'd probably just get like 2 of them. And then if you just go back and buy a tray, a blank tray, it'll cost you about $15 anyway, but it won't have a drive in it. But what you can do with this is, if you've got an old laptop or something that you don't use anymore, or you've got an external drive you don't use anymore, you can take it apart, take the drive out, and then you can swap it, and you can have a like a 1 terabyte or a drive. It's got to be like it's got to fit in the slot, so it's got to be like laptop size. It can't be like a big drive, but any laptop will have a drive that can fit in here, and it'll very likely be a higher capacity than 146 gigabytes. So for $15, you'll be able to put in one of your old laptop drives, which is likely a ½ terabyte or even up to a terabyte, and have a lot of storage. I actually did that with my old PC. I took out or with my old laptop that I don't use anymore, and I put the hard drive into it and installed it and got more storage space. So yeah, this is definitely what I would recommend going back. Upgraded CPU for sure. Memory, that was about right, so I would leave that the same. I would add more storage space, and I would definitely fill in, probably not all of them, just because there's a point where you don't need that much storage space, but having too much is better than having too little, for sure. Then the other changes I would make, so yeah, those all don't cost anything, yeah, that's all good. So, okay, and then, okay, that's interesting. So it looks like there actually are some differences here from when I ordered it. When I bought it, there were different options here for a operating system. You didn't have to get a Microsoft operating system. You could get a Linux operating system instead, or a Linux-based one. Well, actually, I don't know if ESXi is Linux, but you could get. Let me be clear here. You could get an ESXi operating system. So yeah, it would be like a VMware operating system. So it actually wouldn't be a Linux operating system. It would be a ESXi hypervisor. That could be your operating system instead of these window options here. And I went with that, and that was actually one of the main appeals of this build that I went with, because I didn't want to have to spend a lot of extra time figuring out how to boot up the processor. I just wanted to plug in my server, install GNS, and get up and running as soon as I possibly could. Going back, that's another thing I will change, and that's kind of what I wanted this video to be mainly about. So you can see here, $640. That's a lot more than what I paid. I think I paid probably like under. I think I paid less than 600. So I got one of these, yeah, and then 0. I think I probably even paid less than 500 actually, if I remember correctly. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's probably right like around this range here. So over 500, less than 600, probably, yeah, about $100 less than if I had just paid $100 more and kind of knew what I knew now. That would have been worth it. I think it would have been worth spending the extra $100 for those changes that I showed here. Okay, but I'm gonna log into my server now because I want to show something that I did behind the scenes. So now you can see in my history that's saved here. we've got VMware ESXi mapped to the IP address for my server. But the thing is, if I go to, okay, well, that's, okay. It might no longer be .100 actually. Yeah, I think it's .26 now. I think it got, yeah, it got a new IP now. So it's gonna be let me try that again. So 2.168.1.26. Okay, cannot be reached. So I think, okay, so I don't even remember what my password was. Okay, so here's the demo that I wanted to give for this video, kind of one of the main things I wanted to show. That site, I was actually expecting there to be something up, but now that I think of it, no, of course not. I don't have a like Apache or something like that running, so no, it's not going to be up. But you can see this is now no longer live. I actually don't even have my server on that address anymore. It's on .126 address, or .1.26 address, but you can see I don't have a GUI accessible in the browser anymore, and that's because I installed Linux on it, and it was just a basic Linux server distribution. So Linux server and Linux home are the same thing. The only difference is what they have configured by default. So you can configure, you can install Linux server, and then you can make some tweaks, and you've got Linux home. Likewise, you can install Linux home, make some tweaks, and now you've got Windows server. I decided to go with Windows server because for me a GUI, which is kind of the main thing you get from Linux home that's different from Linux server, wasn't really that necessary. So I will show what, and I apologize, I actually was planning to make this video a few weeks ago, and I just kind of did it spontaneously today, so I don't have everything listed out and ready to go that I wanted to show, but I remember what I wanted to talk about. So this is where I downloaded it. There's just steps to follow. And I wiped off ESXi from the server, and instead I installed Ubuntu server. So under downloads, get Ubuntu server. I went with manual server installation. And then now here's something that's, if anyone's watching this and wants to follow in my footsteps, you must know this, and it is really difficult to learn. So GNS, now I learned this the hard way, so listen carefully. GNS is not compatible with version 20.04.2. I learned that from a forum, and I'm going to try to find that forum. So Linux server. Ubuntu server. Yeah. So today's, yeah, it looks like on January 24th was when I did all this work. I meant to make a video closer to that date, but better late than never, I guess. So yeah, so I don't know where. Okay, let me just open up all those links I used on the 24th when I did this work, and then I'll bring that to the forefront, and then hopefully my memory will be jogged. But the main takeaway is that if you install Ubuntu server 2004, you will not be able to use Linux. You'll install it, everything will seem fine, but when you run it, it just won't do anything. So you'll run it and run it and run it, it won't do anything, won't do anything, won't do anything, and then you'll find yourself searching online. So what you got to do is click alternative releases. You can see I already clicked that before, and then you can and then you just download the prior long-term supported version of Ubuntu server, which is 18.04, and that works just fine with GNS. So yep, I think this is gonna start automatically. I can cancel it. I already did that, and then I set up. So there's something called Rufus. The way I set it up is I downloaded Rufus. I have a thumb drive here, and then I used Rufus to make it bootable, so that when you plug the thumb drive into the USB and you restart the server, it automatically runs the software on the thumb drive, and the software is to wipe the disks and install Ubuntu. So here's all the work I did on January 24th when I did all this work. So I had to look up yeah, maybe this was where it was talking about versioning stuff, but yeah, you can see, of course, this is what I was just going over. So yeah, and it's pretty, once you've gotten over that sticking point, that's really the only major hiccup, is just there being no documentation that says that it's not compatible with version 20 of Linux server. Then it's pretty darn easy. But here's an important one: boot from install media. This will show you how to. You can also burn it onto a DVD. The server I bought does have a DVD tray, but I recommend using a thumb drive. That's just easier to manage than because fewer devices have DVD trays than do USB ports. All devices pretty much have USB ports. So, yep, and you only need 2 gigs on your thumb drive. So, yeah, I was just researching the difference between the home and the server version. Okay, so once you've got that and you've used Rufus to make it bootable from the USB, the Linux install guide on GNS3 is where you go next. So you'll need to follow the instructions on that pop up when you reboot. Wipe out your partitions, install Linux, and get to a command line that looks like this. Then it's just as easy as following these instructions here. I think I did OUI support. I'm not sure if I needed to do that or not. And then, yep, I installed Docker as well. Yep, and then that's Ubuntu. It's not Debian. Those are 2 different distributions, so you can skip all these instructions. And at the very bottom, there's notes about attempting to start it. You might need to reboot, might not. But for me, I did not have to. Yep, I've got a GNS3 folder now, full of stuff. I think there's a systemctl like status. Can I do that? Yeah, status. And then like GNS3. Can I do that? me see the EFG. Okay, well, no, I don't see anything that's called GNS3. I kind of want to show some proof that I'm running GNS3 just straight from the command line. Show proof of it running. I guess I can do like a PS or I can do top. Let me try top. So here's I guess adequate proof. You can see we've got QEMU running, which is the virtualization software used by GNS3. So yep, I've got 4 devices running in my lab right now, 2 control planes and 2 forwarding planes. So it looks like it's using a lot of CPU. Yeah, and remember, this is the version where I kind of wish I had gotten a little bit more CPU with this version. But the really good news is it works wonderful now. It works amazing. I do not recommend anyone use ESXi of any version, even if you've got a license or what have you. Linux works just fine. ESXi was working good. I was really happy with it. It was easy to use. Everything. This was a little bit rough, especially not knowing that it was incompatible with version 20. You know, setting this up was not easy. It took me the whole day. It took me a lot of, you know, being stuck and searching and knowing to turn to and just diving deeper and deeper and deeper into forums from, you know, 10 years ago to figure out answers to questions no one else has asked. But I was able to do it, and really, if you know that there is an issue with the latest version of Linux server being incompatible with the latest version of GNS3, and you just know to use 18.4 right away, it's a breeze. But I will say that having ESXi come on the box and just boot it up to that and have a trial license was considerably easier. The problem, of course, and we saw that in the videos I made, was that the license expired and I could only run half the number of routers that I could run before, which put me at about like 4 routers, like 6 routers, you know, at a stretch. And before that license expired, I could do 8 pretty easily, but maybe 9, but 8 was a pretty easy, good thing that I had a lot in the ideal state before. So with Ubuntu server, I can do 12, no problem. And in fact, when I do 8, when I even do 2, it comes up like that. It just is just so much nicer. So I'm gonna demo that right now. I'll open up GNS3, and I've got a different IP on there now. So let me just make a new project, and I'll do homelab. I'll call it homelab demo. Okay, and I've got a project up before, but it's, as I said, I've got to be more guarded with my personal practice now that I've seen the exam and have a confidentiality agreement that I'm adhering to. But I can certainly just drop down a router that I've been using before with no config on it. So let's do that. And I can actually, let me open up the other project and close it, shut down the routers on it, just to make sure that I'm giving a demo that shows the full capacity of my router now that I have Ubuntu server on it. Okay, so I've got that other one shut down, so I'm going to open the other project, which is my homelab demo project, and yeah, so now you can see I've set up the routers from before. I kind of changed the icons a bit so they look a little nicer. I'll go through the settings I use. So if you go to Edit Preferences, you go to Server, and then you say Remote Main Server, and you give it the IP. Before I had .100, I gave it a static IP, but my new server just got a IP from DNS. Really not the best idea, because if there's like an issue like this, there's a power outage and it goes off and comes on and gets a different DNS, you gotta know that, and you gotta come back here and change it, and that can cost you some time. Yeah, and this is just your main server. Even though it is a remote server, it's you enter it as a main server. Okay, and that's all there is to it. You don't have to add any keymove VMs or anything like that. They just come right from your main server. You just click new template, install from appliance. Then you pick out the appliance you want installed. So I wanted a Juniper VMX. You need to do both the virtual and the control plane and the forwarding plane. I'm not sure what this image is all about. I decided not to go with that one. I went with these. Yeah, so now you choose where to install it. Install it on the remote lab, the Dell PowerEdge R610. That came from Save My Server. And now here's where it gets tricky. You gotta have images. So if you are eligible to take this test, the JNCIE-SP, that means you work at a place that Juniper will recognize as allowing you to access VMX images. So yeah, that's where that comes from. You don't need to pay anything extra or anything. You just have to have the same qualifications that are required to actually take the exam. To take the exam, you need to register for it using a employer account from a recognized employer by Juniper, an authorized employer. So lots of kind of roadblocks in the way, but it is a E-level exam, highest level of exam. So it's a really serious certification, and they take it very seriously. Okay, so yep, that's all. Once you got those, then you just you gotta select which one. So go with this one, click next, and then I don't want to install it. I already have it installed. I just wanted to show what this process was. And then because I've got Docker on there as well, any toolbox or anything like that, it comes included with the GNS3 installation. So if I want to learn about F5 machines, it shows up on a lot of job applications, I just need to click install, and then actually I do need the images for that, so I would need to look online for that. But one thing that's pretty cool is you can click this download button, and it will show you what you need to do to get the image. It'll give you some sort of clue. So like yeah, so this is where you would get the image from, but you must be logged in, so you can create an account here. So it doesn't leave you high and dry. It actually gives you a start on how to actually set that up. But there are some, like the VPCS, just a basic machine to test connectivity with pings and trace routes and stuff, where you don't need to have an actual image for it. It's already included in the GNS image. But I think most of them do require an image. Yeah, but for like any Linux box, anything like that, it's already those don't have the same kinds of restrictions. It's open source software, so nothing to worry about there. One final thing I wanted to say is you can also, instead of like downloading an entire Windows Server virtual machine, you can get Docker containers. So yeah, so here's an Ubuntu Docker guest. Then all you'll get is just like a command line, kind of like what I've got here for my homelab. My homelab does not have a GUI; it just has a command line you can SSH into, so you can get that same sort of thing in a Docker container. Much less, uses a lot less resources, and with the Docker container, you don't need an image because it's just part of your installation of Docker. So that's really nice. You can just drop it, and then you'll see some information about Docker, and that will save you from having to find an image. So if I were to start this up, I'd get messages telling me that Docker was okay, why isn't this? Oh yes, start all devices, please. Okay, it's already started. Okay, so I guess I don't know. I didn't see the messages for some reason. Maybe I'm not, because I don't have the console open. Oh yeah, maybe that's it. Okay, well, for some reason I didn't get the messages that I was expecting to see, but as we saw, yeah, it works. It's quick. It's nice. I would recommend going with the Docker guests instead of the full VMs whenever that is possible if you're just setting up a Linux box. All right, but to the main course, the main point of this video, just the demonstration of how much nicer this is now that it's on Linux. I'm going to go back to my routers here. We'll start with just one router. So we're going to put down a forwarding plane, and then we'll put down a control plane. We'll connect the two together. Oops, I cannot. Okay, so there we go. And then we'll start it up and we'll take a look at just how much faster it goes. So if you've been watching some of my old videos, you know very well this absolute snail's pace where you'll see it load up. Then you'll see it get stuck on like a wake up daemon, go more, it gets stuck on something else, and go. So let's take a look at just how much faster this goes now that it's on Linux KVM, courtesy of an Ubuntu server installation. So already we're at the boot menu. I think it would even take some time to get here before it was on Linux, but you'll see these messages just kind of shoot across the screen, hopefully. So yeah, and it will still pause at the same places, but it will go much faster. So let's get a timer on this, because it would take like 15 minutes before. So I'll do a stopwatch, and I've done a stopwatch before on this. Yeah, see that it just burst through that whole section. It used to be a lot slower. So you know, even without starting the stopwatch on time, we're probably only about 30 seconds in right now, maybe a minute, and we're already pages and pages of lines, where it definitely was not this fast before. So now we're probably a minute in, and it used to take probably, in my cron job, to have it ready for me, I gave it 15 minutes, and then when my free license expired, I gave it a full half an hour to boot up and be ready for me to use. So yeah, let's keep watching this and see how long it takes. and I think it takes about 5 minutes. So from a half an hour to 5 minutes, I mean, that's just a huge difference. But we'll see if it's even less than that. And then not only that, once it was booted up, the command line was a little bit laggy. Hit enter a bunch of times. It was kind of bizarre. And the command line is really snappy and quick and nice, even when there's a bunch of devices running. So much better. And the forwarding plane comes up a lot quicker as well. That was another issue. Was it would boot up, you get to the CLI, but none of the gig interfaces would be there because the forwarding plane wasn't up yet. So but yeah, for some reason it goes through a second boot up. It goes back to the main menu. It was doing that before as well. So this is not unusual, but yeah, we're moving right along. We're at the 2-minute mark right now, and it hasn't gotten hung up on anything for longer than a minute, any single thing, as far as I understand. So that's a huge gain. And here's the wake up daemon. That's one of the things that would take a long time. So we're already there, just 2.5 minutes in. We're waiting for the first major pause point. Then there was another pause point shortly after. Yeah, so this random unblocking device was another pause point, and we're still only at the 3-minute mark, probably like 3:30, possibly 4 minutes because I started this stopwatch late, but that's a huge gain over what it was before already. Yeah, and then the next thing I'm going to do, and I can get this ready while I'm waiting for this, is get... I'm gonna just go right for 12 right away, because 12 is something that would absolutely just completely brick it. Before, 12 was not a reasonable number of routers to run, so I'll just get my 12 routers up and start them all up at once, and then we'll see within 5 minutes I've got full access to 12 different Juniper VMs. And that's huge. I wish I had known that before, because it really wasn't that difficult to set this up. I was able to do it in a day, in a few hours, even with that blip. So I kind of wish I had known this. So for anyone watching this right now, that's the big takeaway. Just running this straight up on KVM on Linux is actually the way to go, the way I would recommend now. Okay, and you can see I'm at the CLI already. Yep, and sure enough, we're right at the 5-minute mark. Maybe a little bit over, maybe a little bit under, but I'm there. It's nice and snappy. Look, there's no delays at all. Now I did still have the issue where I lose the command line. That's something that is common to GNS, where you'll walk away from it for a while, walk away from your VMX. This doesn't really happen for Cisco's. And then when you come back, you hit enter a bunch of times and you lost your CLI. It's gone, it's frozen. That's just an unfortunate fact of these images. So I did still encounter that. It was actually less common though. And then not only that, you know, I can set up a cron job in just straight Linux like I had before, and it's going to come up a lot faster. It's going to, you know, so really not a big deal. It's still working a lot better than it used to. Okay, so really not focusing that much on Junipers anymore, but let's get a clean commit on here. So set system, root authentication, plain text password. Okay, and then we've got, yep, so that's going to be good. That's going to be enough to continue. So you can see, yeah, even the commit took a lot shorter of a time. Everything's nice and snappy, great. KVM is really the way to go. Okay, so now let's do a stress test. We're going to boot up 12 routers, which is just more than I could even hope to have run. 8 was about my max on ESXi, so 12, that's going to be huge. And for anything, any test prep, 12 is going to be more than enough. 8 is good, but 12 has all my bases completely covered. So, okay, so I do have one already running. So let's take a look at what kinds of resources it is hogging up. So we'll open up the server summary. Okay, so the server summary still has kind of an issue where it is like weird on my second screen, and I can't bring it up to my other screen for some reason. But I can definitely take a screenshot of that and just show what it's saying. I kind of wish I could do better than that, but unfortunately, with this bug here where it only shows up on the second screen, I really wish I could fix that, because there's like real time. If I just take a snapshot, it's not as clear. But it's yeah, it's hovering around like 8%. Sometimes it dips down to like 5%, but it comes up. So it's between like 5 and 8%. You can see RAM is low as always. I definitely recommend, if someone wants to follow my footsteps here, invest more in CPU and perhaps less in RAM. You know. So, okay, so let's bump it up to the to 4. Oops, let's actually wire these up first. Okay, and one thing I forgot to do is just prove that the forwarding plane is up, so I'll do that quick before bumping these up. So double click that, and yeah, it's still a big delay to get the terminal up, as always, but you see that nice and snappy, so much nicer. And you can see my GE interfaces are up as well, a lot quicker on that too. Okay, so let's see what happens if I start 3 more. Let's see what happens to the, and we'll do a reset and a start on that, get that running. So looks like my CPU spiked up. I'm running at about 30% now. Well, now it's at 24%, of course, so I wish I could have that up on my other screen, but actually it looks like it's now hanging around 20%, 25%, really, really good. So we're at the 30-second mark. We know it takes about 5 minutes for one of them, but let's see if it takes slower to boot up for 3 of them. And spoiler alert, from what I understand, it does not. But yeah, you can see already, look at how fast this is scrolling. It never worked like that before on the old ones. Every little line went pretty slowly. Yeah, you'd never see something like that on my ESXi configuration where it's just scrolling really fast. Okay, and one more thing I'm planning to do with my study is, although I do need to be guarded with what I say, if I understand a concept in my studies and I have kind of a eureka moment, I'm going to come back to my videos, and I'm going to add like a retake video. And thanks to all my new subscribers too. I was surprised to see that when I stopped updating this continually, I still kept getting new subscribers. That was a pleasant surprise to see. So thanks everyone for supporting me here, and good luck to you if you're on the same track that I went down. Hopefully you do a lot better. I guess that's my challenge to you, is to get better than 17 points. So if you really think you bombed it, and if you got better than 17 points, then I guess you can't feel too badly, because that's what I got on it. Okay, so we're probably at the 3-minute mark. Yep, so we're at the 3-minute mark. Yeah, and it goes back to this boot up again. I'm really not sure what that's about. Once this gets up to the CLI, I'm going to do a show chassis FPIC0 on it, pipe refresh, and we'll see how fast the forwarding plane comes up. If everything comes up nice, around the 5-minute mark, we'll boot up. We'll take a look at the CPU, see what it's running at, and then we'll start all 12. That'll spike the CPU up to 90%. I can probably run 13, but 12 is the max that I would need to have running smoothly. So once this is finished, we'll go ahead and do that. And I did see something say hit enter to have it boot immediately, so I'm hitting enter. It'd be great if that would cut down the time. Even a 4-minute boot would be a lot better than a 5-minute boot. But I think we got about a minute to go at least, if not 2 minutes, because I started on time this time instead of later, as I did last time. Let's see how one of the other ones is going. Okay, so yep, you can see they're all going the same. It doesn't make a difference that I'm booting up multiple at a time. They still go at the same rate, which is really nice. Until I start running out of CPU, I think then there's problems. But yeah, we're already past the unblocking device. That was a big sticking point. Now we're on to the next big sticking point, loading the module. This would take minutes on my ESXi operating system, but now that I'm on Ubuntu KVM, it's moving much faster. And we're still hanging. Oh, actually, that's interesting. Now that we're beyond the boot up process, which is pretty CPU intensive, and we're getting to the CLI, my CPU usage dropped quite a bit. I'm at 15%, but it's actually moving between anywhere from 5% to 25%. So it's still a moving target. I wish I could have it up on the other screen, but unfortunately there's a bug where I can't do that. Okay, but it looks like it's at 10% now. Oh, it bumped up to 13. Now it's at 20. Aha, but we've got the CLI now. So let's take a look at the forwarding plane. Oh, yeah, so it's empty now, but we'll do a pipe refresh 3. And every 3 seconds we'll see what we got. Ah, so you can see it's already present about 3 seconds later, running at 33% CPU right now. And we've got 4 routers running So that is pretty darn good. Still at present. Yep, still at present. Oh, and we do have the default config, which unfortunately spams syslog messages. But now we're online. So we're online, but we still don't have a temperature reading, so I don't think it's gonna have those gigabit interfaces ready for use yet, but maybe one or two more iterations of this command will be enough. I just want to get a temperature reading on it before looking at that. Oh, well, you know what? Let's look at it right now. So show int terse. So we do have them now. We're good to go. Let's do one more look at the FPC command. We'll look at it every second. That's much better. Okay, so now we are testing, and we will get a reading. It's just a VM, but once that process is complete, I think is the best time to try to use those processes. And you can see we're under 10 minutes. We wouldn't have even gotten a CLI on ESXi by this time. We would have gotten it at about the 15-minute mark, especially with the license expiring. So really good performance from Linux. Okay, so the final thing I would like to do is reset this. Hit the start all button, and then see what the CPU maxes out on, and then go in and look at some of the routers, see that the CPU is nice and snappy, and that the CLI is nice and snappy, and that the CPU percentage isn't too far out there, and that'll do that. So I started all the devices. I'm starting the stopwatch. At about the 5-minute mark, we'll have access, and we'll just monitor R12 here. Okay, so now, of course, we're starting a bunch of routers up at the same time. We're starting 8 routers up at the same time. So we've got, we've actually only got 80% on the CPU right now. And it's actually dropping down to 78, so it's more, now it's even at 70, so it's like 70 to 80%. Really good. And this is with 12 routers, mind you, with 8 routers booting up at the same time, so much better performance than on ESXi. Really happy with this. Okay, and about the 5-minute mark, it'll be up and ready to go, and then that'll be the end of the video. A little bit longer video than I was expecting. I was hoping it'd be a quick update. Not really sure which playlist to include this under. So yeah, we're at about an hour mark for this video. That's a good length of time for sure. So, yep, I guess all there is to do now is wait for that 5-minute mark. I mean, yeah, and it might, actually what might be interesting is while we're waiting for this, let's go back through my library and try to find one of the old videos of this booting up and see just how much slower it is. So I think, yeah, I've got a playlist. I think what I'll add this one to is maybe the introduction playlist. I think there was another one that might be better. Okay, this one has an actual intro to my lab. So yeah, this one I'm gonna add it under. So I think this will be a demo of this booting up. Now this is going to be with the with the free trial license on it, so it should boot up a lot faster here than it was when I decided to switch it over from ESXi to KVM, but it still should give a good sense of how long it took. Okay, and unfortunately it looks like I just didn't have that as a part of this video, so yeah, I might need to find a different one. Let's see if there's something in the BGP video. Alright, so unfortunately I don't see anything. But let's see if we're at the 5-minute mark. Okay, we got about a minute to go. Okay, I don't need this anymore. Yeah, and you can get different kinds of servers. You just got to make sure it works with virtualization. There are some CPUs that aren't compatible with virtualization. So I do recommend giving a quick Google for your choices. Okay, so we're already at the wake up daemon. Then we'll need to load the module, and then we'll have the CLI. CPU is running at about 76% right now, 75, 74, right around there, mid-70s, which is just absolutely unbelievable for 12 routers. I can probably even do 13, maybe even 14 without any issue at all. Now, mind you, I am just booting up 8 at a time. That's probably the best way to do it if you're doing a bunch of routers. Boot up half of them and then boot up the other half. Because that's one of the big things that spikes the CPU, is just all the routers booting up. Okay, so we'll go back. Well, okay, let's just look at another one just because it's going to be the same, but we'll just look at it out of curiosity. Yep, so it's the same. We're loading the module now. And we dropped quite a bit down to 40%, and then we're still dropping. We're at 38, 32%. Wish I could show this. I wonder if I can like switch screens to show this. Let me try that. So display capture, display one. Okay, yeah, so I was able to do that. So yeah, we'll just watch the number. So let me move my picture over. Yeah, so now we can see the number. We're at 60, 50, 40, really, really good numbers. I can even move this down here, see where we're at. Yep, so we're still loading the module, but we're only at 44%. Really, really good. Okay, and then let's look at the timer. Oh, so we're actually at the 7%, so it's 7-minute mark. So it will take a little bit longer if you've got a bunch of routers booting up at the same time, but even then, you know, what's a minute or two longer? It's really not a big deal, especially when you get 4 more routers than was even imaginable before. Okay, so it looks like I'm back on my screen number 1. So let's go with screen number 2. So let's go back to screen number 1. We'll do a login on this. There we go. So we got a snap. Oh, we saw we had a little bit of a lag there, but I've got 12 routers running now, which was just absolutely unimaginable on ESXi without the trial license. 6 was about the max, but even with the license, 8 was the most realistic. 12 just completely unimaginable, and you can see now I'm doing that quite easily. I am at 96% CPU. I think I probably can. That probably will go down, I believe, if I add some configs such as like if I get rid of these spam messages, I think that will go down. But even so, you know, we see the CLI is snappy. Really not a big deal that it's that high. It makes the fans blow a little bit harder on the server, but still 12 routers. So that's going to be the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you, if you're going to do this, walk away from it being emboldened to try to figure out how to install Linux server yourself. It can be a little bit tricky setting up the USB drive and then picking the right version, but I did that hard work for you. Use version 18.4 and you'll be fine. Alright, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.